You no longer own your software. Your music disappears if you stop paying. Your car can lose features overnight. They call it convenience. They call it flexibility. But here's what they don't tell you. Ownership is bad for a company's stock price, and that single idea quietly rewired the entire economy. Once you bought things, now you rent access. And the shift didn't happen because technology got better. It happened because Wall Street demanded something different. Let's start with a number. In 2024, more than 70% of the market value of the S&P 500 comes from companies selling subscriptions. That's not a typo. 70%, not factories, not patents, not inventory. Promises, renewed every month. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Those companies aren't being valued on what they sell. They're being valued on what they extract. And once you see how that works, you'll never look at a free trial the same way again. This matters right now because subscriptions are no longer limited to apps and entertainment. They're in your car, your home, your job, your health. Tesla can turn features on or off remotely. BMW once charged a monthly fee for heated seats. Adobe moved from one-time licenses to permanent rent. Microsoft no longer sells Office, it leases it. Spotify doesn't sell music, it controls access. Different industries, same logic. And the logic begins with a quiet shift in how companies are judged. If you appreciate calm explanations without hype, this channel is for you. Let's keep going. Let's follow a single purchase. You open your laptop. You need software. Years ago, you would have paid once and owned it forever. Now, you see a price. $12 a month. That sounds small, almost harmless. You click subscribe. Here's what actually happens. That $12 isn't revenue. It's forecasted revenue. The company doesn't just record what you paid today. It models what you're expected to pay for the next 3, 5, sometimes 10 years. That future money is pulled forward, discounted, and added to today's valuation. Translation: your potential payments are treated as present wealth, and Wall Street loves this. Why? Because one-time sales are unpredictable. Subscriptions are not. A customer who buys once is a question mark. A customer who pays monthly is a spreadsheet. This is where the system changes shape. Companies stop asking, how do we build something great, and start asking, how do we reduce churn by 0.3%? Because a tiny change in cancellation rates can add billions to a stock price, not revenue, valuation. But that's just the surface. Enter a term investors love, ARR, annual recurring revenue. It sounds boring, almost administrative, but it's the engine behind everything becoming a subscription. ARR doesn't measure what you've earned. It measures what you expect to extract if nothing goes wrong. And markets don't reward ownership. They reward predictability. Here's the irony. A company that sells you something once must constantly find new customers. A company that rents access only needs to keep you stuck. So the product changes, not to be better, to be harder to leave. Files become proprietary. Playlists disappear if you cancel. Features degrade unless you upgrade. They called it customer retention. Translation: exit penalties. If you want more system-level explanations like this, you know what to do. Let's continue. For a while, it looked perfect. Stock prices climbed, margins expanded, executives celebrated stable growth. Subscription businesses traded at 10, 15, even 20 times revenue. Not profit, revenue. Everyone was winning, or so it seemed. But the system only worked if one condition held. Customers had to keep paying forever. And that's where it starts to crack. First, Prices rise quietly. $9.99 becomes $12.99, then $15. Then tiers appear: Basic, Plus, Premium. Features that used to be included are suddenly advanced, not because they cost more to deliver, because they increase ARPU, average revenue per user, another innocent-sounding term, another extraction lever. Then life happens: layoffs, inflation, fatigue. People start canceling, and when cancellations rise, the math turns violent, because subscriptions don't fail slowly, they fail all at once. A small increase in churn collapses long-term projections, which collapses valuations, which forces companies to react fast. In 2022, subscription stocks fell harder than almost any other sector. The same predictability that inflated them worked in reverse. Suddenly, recurring revenue wasn't guaranteed, so companies squeezed harder. Prices rose again. Bundles replaced choice. Annual plans were pushed aggressively. Cancel buttons moved deeper into menus. Not illegal, just inconvenient. This is the moment most people miss. Subscriptions didn't spread because consumers asked for them. They spread because financial markets demanded them. Ownership creates an endpoint. Subscriptions create a dependency, and dependency is easier to value. This isn't just about software. It's happening to physical goods. Cars unlock features digitally. Homes rely on paid services to function fully. Medical devices require active subscriptions to access data. Even employment is shifting. Contract work, retainers, ongoing access instead of stable ownership of time. The same logic, different wrapper. Here's the uncomfortable part. Subscriptions don't create more value. They shift risk from companies to customers. If a product fails, you keep paying until you notice. If a company changes terms, you adapt or lose access. If prices rise, your sunk cost keeps you trapped. Ownership protected you. Subscriptions expose you. So why don't companies stop? Because the market punishes them if they do. A firm that returns to one-time sales looks volatile, unpredictable, uninvestable. Wall Street doesn't reward durability. It rewards smooth lines on charts. Even those lines depend on friction, fatigue, and forgotten cancellations. This isn't about greed. It's about incentives. Executives respond to valuation models. Valuation models reward recurring extraction, and customers become the stabilizing asset, not people, cash flows. Here's the question no one wants to answer. If everything becomes a subscription, what do you actually own? Your tools can disappear. Your media can vanish. Your car can downgrade itself, not because it broke, because a payment stopped. And that brings us to the real issue. This isn't about whether subscriptions are good or bad. It's about what happens when an economy stops selling things and starts selling permission. Permission to use, permission to access, permission to continue. So what happens next? Either consumers push back, rediscovering ownership and finality, or subscriptions expand further into places you can't easily opt out of. Neither outcome is clean, because once ownership disappears, it's hard to get back. The question isn't whether subscriptions will keep spreading. It's who gets trapped paying and who gets paid forever. If you want more explanations like this, then subscribe to my channel and tell me in the comments, what's the last thing you realized you no longer own?